Hello everyone, there's something deeply unsettling about love, not in the fairy tale sense, but in the way it strips us bare. When you love someone, truly love them, it's tempting to hand them every part of you. Your history, your fears, your insecurities, your dreams like beads spilling from a broken necklace. And yet, some beads are not meant to be given away. You see, intimacy isn't built on telling everything. It's built on knowing what to hold back. Because as much as we want to believe love is unconditional, the truth is, people respond to what they feel, not what we intend. There are things you reveal, thinking they'll bring you closer, that instead shift how she sees you, not always maliciously, but subtly like a shadow passing over the sun. And once that shadow is cast, you can't make the light feel the same again. Today, I want to speak to the man who believes love means full transparency. I want to challenge that, because no matter how much you love her, there are three things, deeply personal, often misunderstood, that you should never reveal, not out of secrecy, but out of wisdom. And when you understand this, your relationships will feel stronger, safer, and more passionate than you ever imagined. There's something quietly dangerous about the moments when we feel most in love. It's in those moments, late at night, her head resting on your chest, the warmth of her hand in yours, that you feel a kind of safety you've longed for your entire life. And when a man feels safe, truly safe, he often forgets that love is not a permanent state. It's a living thing, fragile and sensitive to shifts in perception. We are told over and over, be vulnerable. Tell her everything. Let her see the real you. And vulnerability is beautiful. It's the thread that weaves two people closer. But here's the truth, not all vulnerability is equal. Not all confessions bring intimacy. Some plant seeds that grow into doubt, loss of attraction, or even quiet resentment. The first thing you should never reveal, no matter how much you love her, is the full depth of your insecurities about your own worth as a man. Now listen carefully. I'm not saying you should never express your struggles. In fact, selective vulnerability can be magnetic, but there is a fine line between opening a window and tearing down the entire wall. When you pour every ounce of your self-doubt into her hands, you are asking her to carry the weight of your self-esteem. And that, over time, changes how she feels in your presence. A woman might want to comfort you. She might hold you, reassure you. But if you make her the guardian of your confidence, the dynamic between you begins to shift. She stops seeing you as the grounded man she was drawn to and starts seeing you as someone she must emotionally manage. And attraction, real feminine attraction, does not thrive where she feels she has to hold you together. Think of it like this. If you hand her the crown and say, my worth depends on whether you place this back on my head, you've already lost the quiet authority that drew her to you. Women are instinctively drawn to men who have an inner foundation that no storm can knock down. That foundation is not built by hiding every flaw, but by holding some of your inner struggles in a place that is yours alone to navigate. Let me give you an example. Imagine you've had a series of career setbacks. You're questioning whether you're good enough, whether you have what it takes. Sharing with her that you're going through a rough patch. Healthy, letting her see you're working on it. Powerful, but spending night after night telling her, I feel like a failure. I don't know if I'll ever make it. I'm lost without your support. That's not vulnerability. That's making her your emotional anchor, and it's exhausting. Because here's the paradox, she might love you deeply. She might even mean it when she says, I'm here for you no matter what. But over time, attraction is not fed by a man who needs her to validate him. It's fed by a man who values her support, but does not depend on it for his sense of self. I've seen countless relationships where the man thought being completely raw about his fears would make his partner feel trusted, when in reality it made her see him as fragile. And when a woman begins to see you as fragile, her body and heart can't relax into the kind of desire that once lit between you. She might still love you, but the sexual polarity, the charge, begins to fade. So how do you handle this? By practicing what I call contained vulnerability. It means you share your struggles in ways that invite closeness, but still show you have the internal strength to stand on your own. You can say, I've been facing some challenges at work, and I'm working on figuring them out. It's tough, but I'm learning. This tells her you're human, but also that you're a man who is actively steering his own ship. And there's another layer here. When you keep some of your insecurities to yourself, not out of secrecy, but out of self-respect, you create an air of depth around you. Women are drawn to men who seem to carry a private world within them, not because they're hiding, but because they are whole. When you have parts of yourself that are yours alone to process, you radiate a kind of quiet confidence that no amount of verbal reassurance can fake. The truth is, love does not require you to put every scar on display. It requires you to know which scars to reveal and which to tend to privately. Because the moment you hand her the full map of your insecurities, you are not just telling her where you're hurt, you're telling her where to lose respect. This doesn't make her cruel, it makes her human. So, as we move deeper into this conversation, I want you to hold on to this idea. Keeping certain parts of yourself guarded is not about playing games or being distant. It's about protecting the very polarity that makes love and desire possible in the first place. And once you understand that, we can talk about the next thing you must never reveal, something that, once spoken, can quietly alter the power dynamic in your relationship in ways you may never fully recover from. There's something fascinating about relationships. We believe that honesty is the ultimate proof of love. That if we just lay ourselves bare, tell our partner every detail, no matter how uncomfortable, it will bring us closer. But intimacy is not built by emptying every secret into our hands. It's built by knowing which truths are nurturing and which truths are like pouring salt into the soil. The second thing you must never reveal to a woman, no matter how much you love her, is the full, unfiltered list of your romantic and sexual past in a way that becomes comparison fuel. Now, let's pause here. I'm not talking about hiding meaningful information. If you've had past relationships, it's natural for some of that to come up in conversation. In fact, sometimes a brief, confident acknowledgement of your past can make you seem more worldly, more experienced, even more attractive. But there is a difference between sharing enough to be real and sharing so much that you paint a picture she can't unsee. When you go into detail describing old lovers, recalling specific encounters, even casually ranking what was better or wilder before, you plant images in her mind that can become a permanent part of how she sees herself with you. You might think you're being transparent, but what she hears is I am being compared, measured, and possibly falling short. Even if you reassure her, even if you say, but you're the one I love, a seed of doubt has been planted. And women, like men, have imaginations that can run wild once the mind starts creating stories about whether you still think of that ex, whether you miss certain things she did, whether you secretly wish for that again. You can't control where those thoughts will lead. I once worked with a couple where the man, in a moment of openness, told his partner about a passionate relationship he had in his 20s. He spoke about the connection, the excitement, the way they could read each other's minds. He meant it as a memory, something in the past. But for his current partner, that story became a ghost that haunted their bedroom. Every time they had an off night, every time she felt less connected, she remembered his words and wondered if she was enough. Men often underestimate how sensitive women are to being compared, directly or indirectly. And it's not just about sex, it's about emotional history. If you tell her that your ex understood you better, supported you more, or was less dramatic, you are making her feel as though she's in a silent competition with a woman who no longer exists in your life, but very much exists in her mind. This isn't about dishonesty. It's about emotional intelligence. You can acknowledge your past without giving it power over your present. If she asks about your previous relationships, be respectful, keep it light, and frame it in a way that centers your growth, not the memory of the other woman. For example, I learned a lot about myself in that time, and it helped me understand what I value in a relationship now. This says, yes, I have a history, without giving her a mental movie she can't stop replaying. You also need to remember that desire lives in the space between mystery and familiarity. If she knows every detail about your past lovers, you collapse that space. You become overly familiar, not in a comforting way, but in a way that strips away the intrigue. It's the same reason you don't need to tell her every single thing you do at the gym or every meal you eat. Some things become less appealing when fully exposed. Now, there's a deeper psychological layer here. When you overshare about your past romances, it can signal that you haven't fully closed those chapters. Even if you're convinced you have, dwelling on those details, especially in moments of closeness, can make her wonder if you are truly with her, emotionally and mentally. And nothing kills intimacy faster than feeling like your partner's heart is split between the present and a memory. So why do men do it? Often it's to appear experienced, to create a sense of desirability. Look, other women have wanted me before, but here's the truth. Real desirability is not proven by how many women you've been with or how intense those connections were. It's proven by how you make this woman feel now. The most magnetic men are the ones who can make a woman feel like she's the only person in the room, no matter what came before. Think of it this way. A woman wants to be part of your story, not an editor constantly rewriting it in her mind to compete with ghosts. She doesn't need every page of your past to love you. She needs to feel that she's the chapter you want to be living in right now. That's why discretion is powerful. Not because you're hiding something, but because you are protecting the energy between you. You are choosing to invest in the bond you're building rather than watering seeds of insecurity that don't need to grow. When you carry your past with dignity, when you keep the details that could hurt her locked away, you give her the gift of freedom. Freedom from constant comparison, freedom from the mental images that erode closeness. And that brings us to something even more delicate. A truth that, once revealed, can shift her trust and her perception of you in ways that are hard to undo. It's not about your insecurities. It's not about your past. It's about the thoughts you have about her that she should never hear. There's a unique kind of vulnerability that exists when we are deeply in love. The kind that makes us feel so close, so intertwined that we forget there are boundaries. And yet, some boundaries are not about distance, they are about protection. The third thing you should never reveal to a woman, no matter how much you love her, are the raw, unfiltered, and fleeting negative thoughts or doubts you have about her that are born out of temporary emotions, not truth. Let me explain. We all have moments where we are frustrated with our partner. Maybe she said something that hurt you. Maybe she dismissed your opinion in front of friends. Maybe she's been distant, and you start wondering if she still sees you the same way. In those moments, you might think things you don't actually believe. Once the storm passes, you might think, she doesn't respect me, or she's not as attractive as she used to be, or I don't know if she's the one. These thoughts are often like sudden gusts of wind, strong, unsettling, but gone if you wait a moment. The problem arises when you hand them to her in their most unprocessed form, as if they are permanent truths. If you blurt out, "Sometimes I feel like I'm not even attracted to you anymore," in the middle of an argument, you've not only wounded her, you've planted a seed in her that will grow roots. Even if the next day you say, "I didn't mean it, I was just angry," she won't forget. She will wonder in moments of intimacy if you are secretly thinking it again. The male mind often wants to solve discomfort by getting it out. Men are taught that holding something in is dishonest, so they rush to unburden themselves. But relationships are not built on radical emotional dumping. They're built on the ability to filter, to discern between what is a passing irritation and what is a truth that needs to be addressed. There's a difference between communication and confession. Communication is thoughtful. It's the result of reflection, the ability to say, "This is what I feel, and this is what I think will help us." Confession in its rawest form can be selfish. It's unloading your emotional tension without considering the weight it puts on her heart. Let's say you're going through a season where she's been preoccupied, work stress, family issues, her own inner battles. You notice she's been less affectionate, less engaged in the bedroom. In a low moment, you might think, "She doesn't want me anymore." If you tell her that in the wrong way, without context, you risk creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. She becomes anxious about disappointing you. Her energy tightens, and intimacy suffers even more. Instead, you filter, you separate the fleeting fear from the deeper need. Instead of revealing the raw thought, "I feel like you don't want me," you might say, "I miss feeling close to you. What can we do to get that back?" This keeps the door open without stabbing at her self-worth. Because here's the truth. Once you voice certain thoughts, you can't take them back. Words, especially in love, have a way of etching themselves into memory. A woman might forgive you for saying something harsh in the heat of the moment, but she will never truly forget it. And those words will resurface in her mind when she's vulnerable, making her pull away when you most need closeness. Men often believe that total emotional nakedness is the height of intimacy, but real intimacy is built on discernment, on knowing which truths serve the relationship and which truths serve only your need for relief in the moment. This doesn't mean you bottle up everything. It means you allow your thoughts to mature before you hand them to her. You sit with them. You ask yourself, is this a passing feeling or a truth we need to address? Am I saying this to connect, or am I saying this to discharge my frustration? And if it's the latter, you take it to a friend, a journal, a therapist, somewhere it can be expressed without breaking the trust and safety between you and her. Because safety isn't just about physical fidelity or loyalty. It's about knowing your partner won't wound you with careless words in your most tender moments. The irony is, when you protect her from your rawest, most fleeting doubts, you actually create more intimacy. She feels safe opening up to you because she knows you won't weaponize your passing emotions. She can relax in your presence, which makes her more affectionate, more trusting, more drawn to you. And here's the bigger truth. The most magnetic men are not those who pour every thought onto the table. They are the ones who create an emotional environment where their partner feels both seen and protected. That's the balance: honesty without recklessness, vulnerability without self-sabotage. Now, understanding these three boundaries, your deepest insecurities, the detailed comparison to past lovers, and your fleeting negative thoughts about her, changes how you navigate love. But there's more here, because once you start protecting these truths, something happens. The way she sees you shifts, the way she desires you deepens, and the relationship moves into a space of richer connection. And that shift is where the real magic begins. You might think that by holding certain things back, you are creating distance, that if you don't share every corner of your heart, she'll feel shut out. But in reality, when done with intention, you are doing the opposite. You are creating a safe space for desire to breathe. Because here's the paradox of long-term love. Closeness can kill attraction just as easily as distance can. If there is no mystery, no self-contained strength, if she can see every crack and every flaw the moment it appears, she stops feeling the magnetic pull toward you. She might still love you. Love is built on shared experiences, care, and history. But desire, that's built on tension, on the sense that there is more to discover about you. When you protect certain truths, you're not being cold or deceptive. You're preserving the part of yourself that keeps her curious. You're allowing her to sense depth in you, the knowledge that you have an inner world she will spend years exploring. This is intoxicating for a woman, especially one who is used to men who lay everything out in the first few months. Let me tell you about Mark, a client of mine. Mark had been married for 7 years, and the spark between him and his wife was fading. He thought the solution was total honesty. So he started sharing everything, every doubt about his career, every insecurity about his aging body, every fleeting thought he had about other women. He thought he was being open. She felt she was being smothered by his rawness. Slowly, she began pulling away. She still cared for him deeply. But the man she had once looked at with admiration was now the man she had to constantly emotionally rescue. When Mark learned to hold certain truths, not lie but filter, everything shifted. He stopped leaning on her for validation every time he had a bad day. He stopped telling her every thought about his past relationships. And most importantly, he began speaking his frustrations in ways that were grounded, not volatile. Within months, she began looking at him differently. She flirted with him again. She reached for him in bed, unprompted. She felt safe, not because she knew everything he was feeling at every second, but because she knew that whatever he was feeling, he could handle it without making her the keeper of his emotional stability. And here's where many men get it wrong. They confuse emotional safety with emotional unloading. Emotional safety is created when a woman knows you won't blindside her with destructive confessions in the heat of a fight. It's when she trusts that you can hold your own storms without capsizing the boat you're both in. Think about it. In the early stages of attraction, she didn't know everything about you. She didn't need to. What she knew was enough to trust you, and what she didn't know kept her drawn to you. That balance can be maintained even years into a relationship if you resist the urge to overshare in ways that erode polarity. Now, some men will hear this and say, but isn't that fake? Isn't that hiding my real self? No, it's maturity. It's understanding that your relationship is not the place to dump every unfiltered impulse that crosses your mind. You are not being dishonest. You are being intentional. You are choosing to give her the best of you while working through your own internal mess in ways that don't damage the foundation you're building together. There's also something profoundly attractive about a man who doesn't require his partner to be the sole container for his emotions. When you have other outlets, friends, mentors, passions, therapy, journaling, you lift that weight off her shoulders. She can be your lover, your partner, your confidant in meaningful ways, but she doesn't become your emotional parent. And make no mistake, once she feels she's parenting you emotionally, the romantic charge changes. She might still care deeply, but the desire that fuels intimacy weakens. And desire, unlike love, doesn't survive on obligation. It needs play, excitement, the thrill of being wanted, not needed in a desperate way. Let's also be clear, protecting certain truths is not just about avoiding pain for her. It's about keeping your own dignity intact. Because every time you hand over your rawest, most unprocessed thoughts, you give away a piece of your authority in the relationship. A woman respects a man who can be vulnerable, yes, but she admires a man who can be vulnerable and composed, who can say, yes, I have struggles, but they don't own me. When she sees that, she leans into you not because she pities you, but because she trusts your strength. And trust, in the most primal sense, is what allows a woman to relax into love and desire. Now, imagine the alternative. Imagine you continue to reveal every insecurity, every comparison to past lovers, every fleeting doubt about her. Over time, you are no longer the man she chose because of your grounded presence. You become the man she has to emotionally stabilize. And in that shift, the attraction that once felt effortless becomes something you both have to force. When you understand this, you realize that holding back certain truths is not about deception. It's about preservation. You are preserving the very qualities that made her fall for you. You are preserving her sense of safety, her sense of wonder, and her sense of desire. And when you get this balance right, the balance between openness and restraint, something remarkable happens. The relationship deepens, not just in love, but in excitement. She can still feel the thrill of being with you years later, because you've never given her a reason to see you as anything less than the man she was drawn to in the first place. But there's still one more layer to this conversation, perhaps the most important, because knowing what not to reveal is only half the equation. The other half is learning what to reveal and how to do it in a way that builds the kind of love that lasts decades without losing its fire. We've spent a lot of time exploring what not to reveal, the insecurities that make her the keeper of your self-worth, the detailed comparisons to past lovers that plant ghosts in her mind, and the raw, fleeting doubts about her that wound more than they connect. But there's a truth you need to hold alongside all of this. A relationship doesn't thrive on silence either. If you hold everything back, you don't build mystery, you build distance. And distance, left unchecked, turns into disconnection. The art is not in sealing yourself off. It's in knowing the difference between revealing for intimacy and revealing for relief. When you speak to her, let it be from a place of grounded self-awareness. Reveal the truths that inspire trust, closeness, and admiration. Show her the challenges you're facing and the steps you're taking to overcome them. Invite her into your dreams, not into the depths of your unprocessed fears. Instead of saying, I feel like I'm not enough, you say, I'm working towards something that matters to me, and I'd love your thoughts. Instead of recounting the heat of past relationships, you say, I didn't know love could feel the way it does with you. Instead of confessing every fleeting doubt, you say, I want us to be even stronger. Here's what I think we can do. This is where trust and desire coexist. She sees your vulnerability, but she also sees your leadership in your own life. You're not just opening your heart, you're showing her that you know how to protect both hers and your own. I've seen men transform their relationships entirely by making this shift. They go from being emotionally leaky, where every passing mood spills into the space between them, to being emotionally intentional, where every word shared is chosen for its ability to deepen connection rather than erode it. And the change in their partner is unmistakable: more warmth, more admiration, more desire. Because here's something you must understand. A woman doesn't just want to know you, she wants to discover you over and over in layers. That discovery is not a one-time event, it's a process that lasts as long as you give her new facets to see. When you protect certain parts of yourself, not from her, but for her, you create the space for that discovery to keep unfolding. It's the difference between a man who says, here's every piece of me all at once, deal with it, and a man who says, here's who I am today. And if you stay close, you'll keep discovering more. One feels like a demand, the other feels like an invitation. So, you don't give her the full map of your insecurities. You don't hand her the reel of your past lovers. You don't drop your sharpest, most fleeting doubts into her lap when they're still raw. Instead, you bring her the truths that strengthen the bond and keep the attraction alive. You create a rhythm between closeness and space, between familiarity and curiosity. This rhythm is what keeps long-term love from becoming just companionship. It's what turns, we've been together for years, into, I still get excited to see him walk into the room. It's what makes her talk about you with that subtle glow in her eyes when your name comes up. And perhaps most importantly, it's what makes you feel like the man you want to be in love. Because the truth is, when you protect certain parts of yourself, you're not just protecting her perception of you. You're protecting your own respect for yourself. You're living in a way that says, I am solid in who I am. I don't need anyone to hold me together. That kind of self-possession isn't cold. It's magnetic. It draws her in without you having to pull. It creates the space for passion to live, not just in the early days, but for as long as you choose each other. So remember, love is not the place to abandon all discernment in the name of honesty. Love is the place where honesty is given shape, where truth is spoken in a way that nurtures rather than corrodes. She doesn't need to know every thought that crosses your mind to love you. She needs to know that the man she loves has the strength to carry his own storms, the wisdom to protect the bond between you, and the courage to keep showing her new parts of himself as the years unfold. When you live that way, she won't just stay, she'll lean in, she'll keep choosing you. And the love you build won't just last, it will keep its fire.